Hi there, and welcome to this webinar about speech intelligibility. A webinar about microphone placements and about speech in general. What is speech? What is vowels? And what is consonants? And what are they doing to to our language? I'm sitting here in my crib, and I do these webinars all by myself. So please excuse me if something happens. And please add questions on the way. We have a chat function, so you can add questions at and I will try to answer them on the way. And some of my colleagues are also watching, so they will also help me answer some of the questions. So basically, speech intelligibility, the ability to understand what's being said or sung. Well, to begin with, the language, the frequency range of the speech lies from just below 125 hertz and to just about 8 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz in that area. It's divided so that the vowels, I, U, O, all the round sounds, they are in the area in the lower part of the range, and the higher frequencies is where all the consonants, the K, T, P, S, all those sh sounds, they are. Problem is that the consonants are from 500 and up. They have very little energy compared to the vowels. The vowels have the most energy, and they take up the space They take up the space so much, so the consonants, if they are not preserved well, they will drown in that consonant vowel battle. So if you have someone that's yelling really loud in a maybe in a not optimal audio chain, the vowels, the loud energy from the vowels, they will simply drown the consonants. The consonant can also drown in echo, in reverb, in background noise. If you have background noise in the same area as the consonants, then that will mask the consonants, and the speech intelligibility is compromised. So we have to preserve the consonants. The speech intelligibility is compromised. See, here is a word, a three-letter word. It's act. You see the A has a lot of level, a lot of energy, and the C and the T have very little energy. So when we add energy to the to a word or to the speech, we are adding energy mostly on the vowels. The consonants, we cannot add energy. I have this exercise where I ask you to yell the word T, for instance. Not the E, because that's the vowel that you can yell, but T, the word T, you can't yell the T. You cannot add energy to the T. You can try that, but do it in your elbow. But that will just give you an idea of how bad the balance between the vowels and the consonants are. The paradox is that the vowels, the lower frequencies, they have much higher level, but the higher frequencies, the consonants, they have higher priority. So there is a mismatch here that we have to consider. Also, if we look at the dynamic range of hearing in general, we see that the hearing level, the uncomfortable hearing level, is around 120 dB, but the hearing, the threshold of hearing is all the way down to 0 dB, around 3 kilohertz. That is really convenient. That is very convenient when we are talking about this, these consonants, how important they are. because our hearing, besides having a high sensitivity around 3K, we also have this ability in our brain and in our ear canal to turn up the sensitivity when the 3 kilohertz is missing from the program material. We can, to a certain degree only, if you have totally blocked out the 3 kilohertz in your voice or in your speech, then there's nothing that the brain can compensate with. But if there is a little left, then we can compensate. Problem is that when it comes back, if you have two different speakers, you have one that has no 3 kilohertz and you have another one that has a lot 3 kilohertz, it will be too much when the other one is coming back. When you have speech with different levels or different EQs, the balance will be really irritating, and that will compromise the message of that you are trying to pass through, whether it's a guitar lesson or it's a cooking recipe or it's an important meeting with friends or colleagues. If the speech intelligibility is compromised, people will get tired and you won't get the message through. So anyway, if you see at this picture here, again, you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see the hearing level of elderly people. When we, like me, are losing our hearing, the threshold of hearing is decreased, and exactly in this area around 3 kilohertz is a very, very important part missing. So we have to be extra careful when we are talking to old people. Bear that in mind. If you talk to me, make sure that you have 3 kilohertz in your voice. If we then add the directivity pattern of the human voice, if we add that to the equation, we see here in this experiment from Chu and Warnock back in 2002, we see that the level of hearing is, or the level of speech is much louder in front of the person than it is behind the person. You see that on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you see the frequencies, the different frequency bands, where the blue and the green are the higher frequencies, and the red and orange are the lower frequencies. Of course, we see that we have more higher frequencies in front of a person, but the lower frequencies, they are almost omnidirectional. A little less behind, of course, but almost omnidirectional. If we then look in the other plane, we see that we have more level below the person than we have above the person. But that is not the same as saying that we have better speech intelligibility, better understanding if we place the microphone below the person. Actually, on the contrary. This is all measured in a distance of 1 meter away from the test person. 1 meter because that was, until recently, that was considered the normal conversation distance. Now it's about 2 meters. But back then, it was 1 meter. So that was normal. And you see on the horizontal line, that it is normalized to 0 there on the horizontal line. So everything is below the horizontal line is becoming a little louder, and everything above is becoming a little softer. But if you look at the right-hand side, you see that the reason why it's louder below is because of the low frequencies are taking over below the persons. So the lower frequencies are, compared to the higher frequency, much louder below the person than it is above the person. And that is where the vowels are. So basically, you could say that the consonants are masked when you place the microphone below the person. It is not the chest that's talking. It's not sound coming from the chest. It is the directivity pattern of the voice. If we then add levels, we add the level differences. We again have the 1 meter as our reference. If you look at 0, that is considered to be the nominal level. That is 1 meter away. Then we add a microphone on the forehead of a person. That's the green dot. We increase the level from 1 meter away to the forehead by about 13, 14 dB. So 13, 14 dB louder than 1 meter away when you place the microphone on the forehead. If you place the microphone over the ear, you would have just a little more level. I'll come back to that. But if you place the microphone as a headset on the cheek, like I have here, right next to the mouth, at the corner of your smile, I go like this, and it should be right there. Then you add 25 dB, almost 25 dB to the level compared to 1 meter away. So that means basically the level, if I didn't adjust the level between this and my phone, I have the ability to do this. So maybe you can hear me now, but that's from that phone. It should sound awful. It should have, it sounds like most webinars, unfortunately. But it should sound, no, I had both. Sorry about that. It sounded even more awful because then you had the latency, you had the doubling effect, you had the comb filtering, everything above. But back to my headset. 25 dB, I had to turn it down because otherwise it would be, much too loud for you guys. So anyway, moving the microphones to the chest, 15 centimeters away from the mouth adds about 18 dB, and 25 centimeters away adds about 15 dB. So much better level, which means, again, much better background noise to speech intelligibility. So that is levels. If we then concentrate on the frequencies, on the EQ, we have, again, 1 meter as our reference, and that is now considered as our normal. So normal in the horizontal line, 1 meter away. That is 0. Now we add the microphone on the forehead and we measure the difference. Now the levels has been taken out of the equation. So we are only talking about frequencies. So 1 meter away versus forehead position gives us this EQ. The ear position gives us this EQ. The headset position is this EQ. I will get back to them, don't worry. And the chest position, the average, will give us this EQ. They sound like this. I would like to give you a little example because I have here with me a 4061. Basically the same sensitivity as my headset here. So if I switch between the headset and the lav mic, you should have pretty much the same level, should be pretty much the same sound. So when now I take the lav mic and I place it on the forehead, and it sounds like this. When I speak to the camera, I speak with the microphone on my forehead. And then I put it on my chest down here, and it sounds like this. The change should be dramatic. You should be able to hear a huge change in the sonic qualities. Back to the forehead, it sounds like this on my forehead above me, and it sounds like this below me. Even worse, if a camera director, if a film director, he asks you to place the microphone here, it sounds like this. Over my ear, you hear it's not as loud as the headset. But I also lose a lot of the higher frequencies. You hear more of the room now compared to this one here. The difference between these two is about 10 dB, and that 10 dB is then picked up by the room if my voice was the same. These placements are done by my colleague Rune. He has made these sound examples with a girl singing And you can use the QR code, and you can download these examples and hear them for yourself and compare them to each other. Feel free to do that. If we take the average of these placements with 10 people, Eddie Brixen, when he did this experiment, he took 10 people, 7 men and 3 female, and he made sure that all the microphones, they were positioned in the same distance to the sound source, to the mouth. So you see the forehead position is almost linear. It has a little peak. I'll come back to that, but it's almost flat. So the forehead position is very, very close to the 1 meter away if you take the level changes out of the equation. When this test was done, it was done in an anechoic chamber. So we are not talking about reflections from the table or from the floor or from the room. No reflections at all. The ear position is much worse. It has a lot of attenuation in the higher frequencies. All the high end is completely lost. And that's what you heard before. So if you add that to the level drop, you get that really bad sound. So if you are asked to place the microphone over the ear, you have to know that that is not optimal for the speech intelligibility. Headset, it's a little better in the mid-range, but you're still losing higher frequencies because we are still, even though we are so close to the sound source, we are still behind. We are still behind the sound source. So the higher frequencies are still compromised. The last one, the most popular one, unfortunately, because it has this dramatic drop around 3K. So basically, the chest position is by far it is the worst position if you are talking about speech intelligibility. Well, the ear position is not good either, but it's more fun to provoke and say, well, never place the microphone on the chest anymore. Of course, that can't be done because we always want to place the microphone there. And even worse, if you're placing it underneath the costume, then the speech intelligibility is even more compromised. But this is where I normally say it's not a problem if you know what you're doing. If you know about this EQ and you know how to counter EQ, then it's not a problem. See, every time we place the microphone on something, it changes the character of the microphone. In this case, we are placing the microphone flat on a surface. The human body is one big surface. So the microphone becomes like a boundary layer microphone. And that adds those peaks at 800 Hertz on every single position. So the conclusion would be that the chest position has this EQ here, and you would have to do the counter EQ, which would look like this. It's a little drastic, but it should give you a hint. It should be a good starting point to where to attack the EQ. But again, use your ears when you do it. When I do seminars about this, I often recommend that you do a recording of this position here or 1 meter away in an anechoic chamber, but that's a little hard to get around on. So place the microphone here, record your actor, and then place it in whatever position you have to because of the costumes or because of whatever situation you are in. And then make sure that this microphone here sounding like this, that should be pretty normal, like a good starting point. And then the compromised microphone, wherever it is, should match this sound, because we forget what it sounded like 5 seconds ago. But if we have the yeah, I would say the starting point. If we have the reference mic stored somewhere, then we know what to match it against. Get back to you later. Thank you very much for joining us.